With a big announcement coming in the Frontier League, it's time to rock on another episode of the Indie Ball Report podcast. We're back again, episode number 306 of the Indie Ball Report podcast. Ryan, live on location again this week. How you doing?
I'm good, hanging out at the office because that's what you get when you make me come to the office for no reason when I've already done all my work.
Look at
I'll
you.
record a podcast on you, man.
I respect the dedication. You're not only slaving away like an Oompa Loompa in Wonka's factory, you are just dedicated to the show, dedicated to the grind in a way we haven't seen from other shows, certainly.
Dedicated to the grind in like a way where even wearing the company polo, it's crazy.
Big corporate shill. I
drop a lie. You got it, boss.
Shut thing right away.
Dude, I'd be a hell of a henchman, but instead I do corporate social media. Well, I'm in hell. If you're hiring, let me know.
It's kind of evil scheming when you get down to it, corporate social media. But do you have a good retirement plan? Is the question.
I would if I had enough money to actually really pump the 401k, but I need that cash now, homie.
Well, when you're rich, it's straight cash, homie.
That's not for me. That's for the people who make me come in twice a week. For a job that could and should be entirely remote. Has been in the past. The mouse I specifically use for podcasts also just died. I don't have the charging cord. I am furious.
Every day is a hell, isn't it?
Bro, the podcast just ends with me splitting my head open on this desk. And then the sounds of people finding me. But it's going to be a wait until they do. The door's closed. So and we're going to keep it rolling. We're not going to turn it off.
Well, of course not. How else am I going to have to ask them to send me the audio file?
Fair enough.
See, the good news is there's only 3 things we have to get to this week. So y'all are getting a fun podcast this week, not an information pod. We'll make you all angry because next week I think the plan is to do a manager report card because we did that exactly a year ago on, I believe it'll be Monday because 27th it came out or something. Or recorded on 27th. Yeah, so we'll see if we annoy anybody this year. I'm sure we will, but
there'll be bulletin board material for sure.
Regardless of that fact, we probably should get to actual indie ball news because we do have one piece of news, one theory, and then discussion. So, Frontier League's doing some tryouts. It's going to be literally the same that it always is. April 22nd through 23rd, as opposed to being in Lake Erie, as it has been recent few years. It will be in Crestwood, Illinois, Ozinga Park, home of the Windy City Thunderbolts. The first time at Ozinga that I could at least find. Draft's going to be live streamed, by the way. They do tryouts and drills on day 1, inter-squad games on day 2, draft after day 2. 2 new teams in down east Mississippi got the top 2 picks. Everybody else is done in the order that they finished in the standing. So last place team picks higher than the first place team does. Literally the same as every year. I'm sure there's a fee associated with it. I didn't write it down. It's probably on the flyer, and if it's not, then it'll be announced shortly. So, it's really hard to get up for these tryouts that get maybe 3 players out of. So,
Is that what they're looking at normally? I feel like there's more than that. Hold on.
You can pull the thing back up.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I got it right here too. So it's the first story on the website as of 118 on a Friday.
They picked 44 players last year. Now they did have a full roster to fill.
Well, see, that's the thing. They'll take everybody, but then 3 of them actually.
How many of them hang? Yeah.
That's my point. Really, it's a lot of them are. I hate to say league tryouts aren't the best because they absolutely can work. Right, last year it says 19 saw regular action, 3 played in other partner leagues. So realistically, 22 guys, so half of them got regular indie ball playing time, right? But here's the thing: half of them didn't, and I almost feel
that's of the guys who got drafted.
Yeah, I almost feel like the draft itself is more hey, you came to this tryout, and we have to hand out a certain amount of positions And also, like, we want to try to level the field among some of the garbage teams here. But, like, if you're a quality talent evaluator and a good manager, meaning you have the connections, you know what you need, and you know what you need to look for, I feel like you'll still find the quality players, you'll still find the talented players. And it won't be as necessary to be at the draft. Now, that's not to say that it still isn't a good decision to go, depending on what your circumstances. It could be just getting in front of scouts and, getting, I assume, some information of value is useful. It looks like the tryout is only $75 too, which is,
Not bad.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it. Even just to make connections. I mean, even if you don't get picked up.
Yeah. So it looks like the workout begins at 9 on Tuesday, and that's pretty standard. It's fielding and throwing drills, and then some batting cage work, and then first the home time for position players, and then pitchers are throwing 15 to 20 pitch bullpens. So it feels like as a pitcher, you're really just kind of like, can I show up and get this done in about 20 minutes?
Right.
Yeah. Like, I don't understand what more you can really do, because like, if you get picked for an inter-squad game, it's not like you want to throw 50, 60 pitches on your arm and then go out and throw an inter-squad game the next day. But, like, same point in time, though, like, presumably it wouldn't have been playing much baseball, so that arm's still fresh. And, like, I would think they'd want to see a little bit more out of you. Some managers may even make you run polls to test your physical endurance.
Some of them, allegedly. I don't know. I didn't hear any rumors of that last year.
Oh, that's good. At least maybe that's
maybe the complaining got to him.
Yes, but yeah, so that's your tryout. Again, I will always say it's not always the worst idea nor the best idea to go. It's worth checking out and looking at. Go ahead and advise at your own caution. Right. Oh, if you're a pitcher, it's 75. If you're a position player, it's 100.
Continued work. I mean, they got to be struggling to get pitchers on these things when you got to. I mean, they've been lowering the price for pitchers for years, but it's just like, I know that you can't replace going against a batter, but like when so much of pitching is like, you can see it on a video with some data. It's like, you can tell if a guy's worth a look. Because, I mean, you're drafting guys who are worth a look in spring training. Like, you can also say a guy's worth a look in spring training based off of video. So that's where it gets tough. Sorry to completely dunk on a tryout. That's not really what I wanted to do.
I know. It's really quite an odd change of pace for us. Normally, we're not going after tryouts and stuff. But, like, at the same time, like, it just feels like there's not too many guys that we see stick around here. Like, we look at the draft results, and normally, like, I don't know, man, halfway through the season, most of them are gone. Now, I guess that's true of anything, right? Like, you're going to have such a radical change on a lot of these rosters, regardless of where the player comes from. But even still.
Yeah. I mean, unless, of course, you get the once in a blue moon, like Josh Sala turn up at your tryout.
Yeah, true.
Which is just like, I mean, there is a theory to that too. Like, you might pull someone out of the woodwork, kind of. That's just like thinking about it. But I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, they're 1 in a million too, right? So I'm more just looking at it from the player perspective. Like, you don't lose anything really by going, but if you can't afford to go, then just don't. I don't think it's that critical for you.
Yeah.
It's just a matter if you're going to have to work harder on your own to get seen. Also, for those that are in the LA area, because now I'm in an Eventbrite hole, next Friday, there is the Oh Mama Burlesque show, which I believe which I believe is a play on Mamma Mia, because it has the same exact background and everything.
So there's going to be a lot of Greek dudes for sure.
The doors open at 6:30. Show kicks off at 8. Prepare to be swept away by an electrifying evening where safe sex takes center stage.
Yo, I am thrilled with my Grease joke.
So, any other thoughts on this tryout before we move along?
No, I mean, I had more thoughts than thought in the first place. So, yeah, I feel like it came down really hard on that. I mean, it's the right opportunity. it's kind of a know thyself sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the case with a lot of the tryouts, is right. Like you gotta be realistic about your odds and your situation, right? If you were traveling, 14 hours to get to this tryout for the possibility of being turned away after day one, which is like probably just a 3 or 4 hour tryout. I can't imagine just like hitting, fielding, and throwing drills are lasting more than 3 hours, 4 hours. I have a hard time buying that. But if it's that, maybe we don't do that. But if you're in the greater Chicago area, perhaps this is a good decision. Although it is kind of funny, now that they added more teams into the fold, you're like, yeah, let's go further west.
Yeah.
And like, isn't snow in Chicago and like still possible at that time of year, or is that like a stretch?
When is it again?
22nd April.
26. It won't be toasty, but
okay.
Yeah, I kind of get it that
I do kind of think, though, in a sense, it may have been better to host it in Mississippi, just because all the guys are probably in Texas and Florida anyway.
Yeah, I do wonder about that too. It's kind of I've been thinking about that a lot ever since we talked about like the California teams having an advantage because of all the like Cali players out there, and you're now the local indie ball team. I was just sending that to you just to point out that I sent the pic of last year. There's so many. That's the thing with it's cheaper, so it's like more of a like, hey, like might as well go and introduce yourself. But also like, bro, there's like so many players that go, especially because it's cheaper.
Why? Because this one guy got 791 on his back.
Yeah, I gotta believe there's not 791 guys.
Yeah, no, I think it's just 7's the starting number because they all start with 7 here.
There's a bunch of 2s.
Yeah, but the guys wearing 2s all look like coaches. No, I take that back.
Yeah.
Just the guy's stance at a coach stance.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless, what it could be is position players get the 7 and pitchers get the 2. Could be that.
True.
Could be a unit by position type of thing.
Just in this picture alone, I feel like I can see about 90 guys. And you got to figure there's more down the left field line. I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
It literally says 312 players.
See, Jackal math.
Jackal math is insane.
It's like knockout math where you take whatever the lying number is and multiply it by 2 and see if anyone calls you out on it. And if they don't, you keep multiplying by 2 until they do.
Yeah, and then you go back. No.
And then you go ahead and you just get rid of attendance.
Yeah. Classic.
Classy.
What else we got on the radar today?
We actually do have New England to talk about, surprising enough, because on their website, they're teasing a big announcement for January 29th. And it looks like a Brockton Rock rebrand, mainly because there's a Brockton Rock logo in the middle of the website page now.
Welcome back to Brockton Rocks.
Exactly.
And New England Boulders ownership.
Yeah.
New York Boulders, my bad.
New York Boulders, Rockland Boulders. Take a look at these boulders.
I do love the idea of them owning the rocks and the boulders, and like I wish they were like Rockland still. It would have been perfect.
Oh god, branding writes itself. Then at some point you have to work in the Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? Because Stone Cold, you got to work that WWE night in there.
Just the Rock was right there as the reference. That's why I was confused.
The Rock costs too much.
Fair enough. That's the thing. I wonder. I don't really follow wrestling like that, but I do wonder, like, what modern wrestlers will be the ones who are like in indie ball ballparks in 20 years.
Who's going to be the next Hacksaw Jim Duggan?
Oh, I met him. He was in Wilmington.
And Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah, missed that one, but.
Oh, who's the other one that's ever
those who just show up to minor league park, house beers, and sign autographs, get wild with it.
See, meanwhile, I'm fighting back laughter at the thought of like a Stone Cold Steve Austin imitator, but it's just like some generic bald dude with like that Facebook tough guy mustache.
Oh man, that is. I'm trying to remember. Oh, I can't find a promo schedule from back then. It's pretty funny though.
Oh god!
But
Yes, so they're gonna do a rock rebrand, and there also really hasn't been any new social media posts on any of the platforms for them since the start of the year. So about a month now without posting. Kind of tells me new ownership's coming in. We're reevaluating things, and you don't want to keep promoting a brand you're about to ditch. Even though I still think it'd probably be a good idea to keep an internet presence up. That's probably a good idea there. But to each their own, certainly. Yeah. So knowing that it's going to be New York owning this team, knowing that we're going to go back to a more recognizable brand in the market, which is probably a good thing. Although, well, it's just the third identity in about 18 months.
I mean, sure, but is it really a new identity if it's a familiar identity, at least to the local area?
True.
It's nice to not, as somebody who tried to explain the genomes to people, I can tell you it is valuable to not have to explain that it's a new team, but also kind of not a new team. It's nice just to be like, you know how the Rockton Rocks have been here since you were a kid? It's the Rockton Rocks. Come. People who actually pay attention to baseball won't need the explanation. People who don't pay attention won't care that now we're in this league as opposed to this league, and here's the difference.
Yeah, fair enough. It's still though, I'm gonna point to the mismanagement angle of this, that you had to go with 3 different identities. One you couldn't use because of a copyright issue. One that was kind of thrown together late, and now this one that's new ownership.
You just reminded me of a tweet that I hadn't sent with the Utah Yetis issue going on. Down I was like, oh, the knockouts.
I guess you could say funny. The Yetis have been put on ice. Anywho, back to Brockton itself here. It just is like the incompetence of having to do this 3 times. It does speak to something. I do agree, though, going with Brockton Rock. That's been familiarized. It's been around for quite some time now, probably early aughts, I believe. It's probably for the best to do that. And I do have a lot more confidence in the New York ownership group to actually treat the thing right. You see the success they've had in Pomona. Now, granted, 2 different marketplaces. You get a different kind of split and different share city-wise. I don't know what it's like around Brockton. I've heard mixed signals about it, so perhaps it's a different challenge. But I think just by going with the brand itself will help, and to have people that have experience in this, that know what it's like to work with the same general region, know what it's like to work at this level of independent ball before, and just, quite frankly, are willing to scrap what they know doesn't work and try things they think will work, it's probably for the best. Because, I mean, we saw how bad it was last year, both on and off the field. It's got to be an improvement this year.
I mean, just trying to run 1 team versus 2. I mean, they never had the infrastructure for 2. And I'll clarify, like, our commentary on, like, the disorganization is not a commentary on the new ownership. It's just on, like, how much of a disaster that was, and also the importance of, of not rushing into an ownership situation as a league. It's interesting. I think it's interesting because we talk a lot about the Frontier League struggling, at least from where we sit. Like, we're not seeing the books at the end of the day, but they feel like they're being gained on by the Pioneer League. If you are a guy who is roster eligible within restrictions for Pioneer League or Frontier League, I mean, any guy I've talked to so far, I've kind of been like, I would go Pioneer League, man. Like, you can make more money over there. And I hate to be that guy. The competition's not that different. So it's not different enough to justify the pay cut you take to the Frontier League.
Yeah.
And then when you look at the number of struggling organizations right now in the Frontier League, there's some concerns. And I think it's interesting during all of this to see that there are multiple owners who recently have decided to double down with their stake in the league, with Florence ownership grabbing Windy City, with New York grabbing onto Brockton. Obviously, you got the dual ownership situation in Jersey. Different conversation slightly. I think I'm missing one as well. I think there's another one, at least one more in there. But anyway, I wasn't really prepared to talk on this point, but it just kind of occurred to me that it's interesting to see that owners do seem to believe what's going on here. On the same side, it does, I think, open up some vulnerability, because we just saw now what happens when one of your owners ends up either having something happen, like an SEC violation or what have you, or
Oh, we didn't make
they
the college
just
football
run out of
playoff?
money. One of them made it, but he was basically not a member of the SEC.
Dun, 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 dun.
I'm trying to think on the phrasing of this, but it is, I guess, something that you could see as optimistic and positive, while also being worried about.
There is a dichotomy among
Yeah, it
ownership
opens up
where,
risk.
where you have some that are getting out for various reasons, and then others that are saying, no, I believe in what we're doing here. I'm going to double down. I do wonder, though, if that's just trying to increase their stake and say in the league, and they have a particular idea they want to go for, right?
Yeah,
Like, it feels like that's the way to go. I mean, it's hard to own two struggling teams. I think it's part of the reason we saw Windy City management become disinterested in both, in addition to the potential SEC violations. It's a tough one.
hate to see it.
Yeah, but you start to wonder, like, okay, what's the Dorso plan here? You obviously didn't have a great year in Sussex, and it wasn't a good year in Jersey. So how long can you do that? I mean, Sussex has never really had a high average attendance, so they're just continuing to do what they are doing. New Jersey was struggling in Yogi Berra, certainly, because the facility wasn't up to par anymore, but no one shows up in Patterson. So 6-1, really, and it's gone kind of worse. So how long before he says, I can't keep two, I can barely keep one, one's got to go?
Yeah, that's another conversation. I don't know enough about Dorso to be like, how much money does he have is sitting around? But it does make you wonder. Not enough money to do anything about their ballpark situation that wasn't Patterson.
Exactly. Yeah. And well, in fairness to him, though, assuming you want to stay in North Jersey where you'd have any sort of brand recognition, what exactly is, what exactly is the plan there? Where are you going to go? There's nowhere else to really go.
I mean, look, North Jersey better than me, but I would suggest going to the beach and playing like it's Sandy Flats in backyard baseball.
Well, then you'd have to go to South Jersey for that. But that being said,
there's no sand up in North Jersey. What the hell's going on up there?
There's sand, but I mean, like, not beach sand.
What does that even mean? What is happening up there?
Well, so you landlocked states. You don't quite understand how sand works. I don't count the Erie notches.
I'm sorry. I go down to North Carolina because I don't slum my way up to Jersey for the beach.
I do both, by the way, North Carolina and New Jersey, because I'm special.
That's fair. You do. I'll give you that.
But see, there are multiple kinds of sand. New England people know what I'm talking about here, because sometimes you have like more rocky, coarse sand.
Okay, I feel you.
And it gets everywhere. And then you have more like actual sand that's like lighter, powderier, I guess is the way to kind of put it. And then you have more like river sand and ocean sand, right? Where like technically, it's sand, but it's more like sediment than actual sand. So there's varying degrees of this. Plus, most North Jersey sand's on the banks of a polluted river, so I wouldn't recommend going to it.
Speaking of going off topic, do you mind?
Sure, go for it. I don't think we have, just quickly, do we have anything else really on the Brockton bit or no? Because I think
I'm optimistic about it. This is certainly a turn in the right direction.
Yeah, no, I think
I believe this could work.
Yeah, I have a lot more confidence in that. But even still, I'll be cautiously optimistic. It's a big turnaround to do.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of work, but if they go about it in a smart way, I believe in them. I mean, if I'm honest, like I'm not overly impressed by the market that is around the Boulders, and they've made absolutely seemingly everything out of it that they could. So I think there's some common sense approach to doing this, but anyway, I would just hope, I don't know. I just hope again that they're not spreading themselves thin, but I got to believe they know what they're doing. Maybe.
I just hope it goes better than it was before.
Yeah.
That's all I'm hoping for.
So my next point
is
my next item, I guess, would be that I'm following up on something that I actually discussed, I think, during the Q&A episode, I want to say.
Okay.
And is also related to a tweet that you brought my attention to the topic,
Okay.
and then I retweeted it because I think it is something worth considering as we have a varying landscape of broadcasting across indie ball teams, and this particular thing does not include an indie ball team, but a former indie ball team.
Oh, okay.
And it's been a sticking point for me because it has always bothered me the way broadcast jobs are handled within most teams, I think it's fair to say, which is the broadcasters are also expected to sell and all that. And I get part of that is a side effect of the fact that teams aren't super profitable. I would also argue maybe you shouldn't be owning a team if you're looking to turn a profit at this point, because it seems to be more set for a passion project. But that's a different conversation we should have. But I think the most egregious example of this is what you brought my attention to pre-show, which is our old friends, the Somerset Patriots, who are an organization I think generally pretty highly of. I think I'm not wrong to do that.
Yeah, they're pretty well ran.
Yeah. They posted a job opening for a number. What is the exact job opening?
I believe it was media relations and broadcast assistant.
Yes. Media relations and broadcast assistant. So I just want to go through the responsibilities and then we'll discuss my issue with this. Job one, responsibility one, starting there, provide play-by-play and color commentary as the number 2 broadcaster for all Somerset Patriot home games, which are simulcast to both terrestrial radio and MILB TV, assuming MILB TV must be run by extraterrestrials. Assistant publication and distribution of all team media materials, including press releases, lineup cards, box scores, stat packs, game notes, and post-game notes. Contribute daily to all Somerset Patriots social media channels with engaging graphics, video content, and written features. So I will note we have left the realm of media relations and broadcasting and gone into social media.
Yep.
Execute assignments from social media calendar, creating and scheduling content on a daily basis. Once again, we are looking for a social media person. Shoot, edit, and produce pregame interviews and other content to be aired on the Somerset Patriots pregame show. Yes, media related, but also this is seemingly a different job, which is video production. Live tweet all home and road games. Oops, that's social media again. And if you're live tweeting all home games, aren't you also broadcasting that game? You're doing commentary. Compile post game notes for all home and road games. Okay, so you're also working road games. Let's not get that twisted. You might be at the home games, but you're also doing game notes for the road games. Edit spots, billboards, rejoins, weekly podcasts, and other content that will air on Somerset Patriots radio flagship. Again, yes, media and broadcasting, but also kind of something else. Let's be honest, that's production. Host pregame and postgame show as needed. Okay, fair. Assist in overseeing all aspects of MILB TV production, including staffing, scheduling, sponsorship fulfillment, and content planning. So now they're overseeing other staff, scheduling, and sponsorship fulfillment, as well as planning the content. So that's running a broadcast now. So you're broadcast number 2, but you're also seemingly running a lot of this broadcast. Publishing press releases, post-game notes, written features, probable starting pitchers, and other multimedia content to SomersetPatriots.com and Somerset Patriots mobile app. So that's also that's a communications and marketing role, a lot of that, partially even operations, but sure. Work traditional office hours on road game days. So your days off, because they're on the road, are not days off. You are in the office to prepare and publish media relations and social media content in addition to live tweeting. Okay. That is, once again, a communications, marketing, social media role. Log and archive photo and video database. So you're also doing that. Assist local and national media outlets with team inquiries, credentialing, providing B-roll, and other requests as necessary. That's a communications manager. And manage quality control of press box operations. That's a press box manager or press box assistant. So for all of that, which is multiple jobs seemingly, they are looking to pay a $250 a week stipend. So for $1,000 a month, you'll be taking several jobs, seemingly full-time. This is a full-time job. You're in the office when you're not doing games, which means if you're in the office and you're doing the games, you're also working multiple weekends. So don't get that twisted. For $250, I mean, there's going to be.
Are you pulling tarp?
On a crazy week, it's going to be roughly $3.16 per hour
This feels like more like an internship than it does an
On-
actual job.
A week where it's only road games, you're looking at $6.25 per hour.
Yeah, that's below the state minimum wage.
Well, it's a stipend, so you don't need to worry about that. And
Yeah.
beyond all that, I mean, MILB
I'm just
is
pointing
pretty
out, though, that you'd be
flexible.
better off working as a concession vendor if you're looking for money.
Yes. Yeah. Sling hot dogs. If you're looking to work for Somerset Patriots, gotta be honest with you. Run Your Own podcast. Don't give them that. So yeah, that got my attention as someone who, like, I don't do broadcasting. I do whatever this is. I've been on a couple of broadcasts which have been fun. I would be interested in it. But my ultimate thing keeps going back to, I would be interested in doing broadcasting or something like that if every single job seemingly wasn't like this, where it's just crazy expectation of what you're giving for what you'd be given. And it's just, this was the most egregious example of it. But I'm like, at a certain point, and I talked about the concept, I think, again, in the Q&A episode of an ombuds person. At a certain point, there's the balance between what's good for the team and what's good for the game. And at a certain point, we're going to be losing a good number of talented people because we are not willing to invest in them. And we can look at the short-term profit motivation, sure. However, in this situation, even this is an affiliate team in Somerset, like they're a Yankees affiliate. They're making good money. It's frustrating because that short-term good for teams, I guess good, by the way, because what are you getting? What missed opportunity is this? What are you falling short on if this is the angle you're taking? But we'll call it good because there's a profit motivation, is certainly hurting the long-term of the game, and it's keeping potential people out and in other markets, essentially. So it's just frustrating. And I kind of endorse the idea of league-run broadcasting communications, because this will be something I think we'll be talking about down the road. But the idea of raising the floor of a broadcast is one that I've been thinking about a lot. Like if you're a league, like we've talked about recently, the reason we have trouble with Flow and we complain about the production value isn't because Flow does the production. The problem is Flow mandates that you pay $30 a month, and then the teams have no responsibility to actually give a good broadcast because they've already got their money. So you pay for like this bare minimum product. That's a bigger thing of Flow. Flow Track. I just watched a whole expose on Flow Track and how it's ruining track and field. But it's a bigger issue. It's going to hurt the game. It's going to hurt the interest of fans. It's going to hurt the interest of potential future great broadcasters that we're just keeping out because we're just choking it out of the game. It's frustrating. I know we're talking about an affiliated team. I think that makes it even worse. Honestly, the indie ball jobs I've seen have been better with this, but not much better, a lot of them. So that's all. If you're thinking about it, I would just...
The only thing I would say is, at least on the indie ball level, a lot of them tend to be not actual paid positions, but internships, right? So they're either giving you less, or there's an understanding like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be doing this probably from end of May to beginning of August, roughly. So you're doing it for less time, and you're doing it with like, okay, I'm doing this for experience. I'm not doing this for pay. And at least then there's a different expectation, a different standard that's being set, right? If you're bringing someone in that isn't a paid employee and that is there to learn how to do this, you go in saying, all right, they're going to be making mistakes. They're not going to do it all right. And there's probably going to be times where things get dropped and just forgotten about because that's what we're dealing with here. When you're paying someone to do it, even if it is a stipend, there's an expectation that, no, this is going to be done correctly and it's going to be done efficiently. It's going to be operating as a professional enterprise here. But you can't then underpay the market and expect 4 jobs for the price of 1 and then be upset if any of the product doesn't turn out the way you want it, because you're putting a lot on one person to get it all done. Now, maybe it's a situation that when you get in there, you have more help doing it. Maybe you have interns underneath you that you can kind of subcontract that out to. I don't know. But even still, then you're saying, oh, so then I'm more of a manager than an assistant. So then I should be paid like a manager then, because then I'm responsible for people underneath me.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I understand it's a desirable position because, well, being on a broadcast means you get on a reel. And if you're on a Yankee broadcast, that means odds are that you're going to get on Yes Network at some point, or you're going to have more connections to move up and through, and just having Yankee branding does mean something. I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't.
True.
And also being on local radio also helps. They do have an AM radio deal. I think it's 1450, I want to say is the dial number. But regardless of that, I understand there is reach and there is a benefit to it, and that's why they're able to get away with it. It still doesn't make it right. And you do agree that you're going to chase out some talent here. Now, I would love to see the talent retained. I'd like to see them paid. I'd like to, actually see fair compensation come through here. But at the end of the day, I also understand that a lot of these people, they want to keep moving on to the next level. But that doesn't mean you can't retain some good talent. I mean, look at Jack Michaels in Fargo. That's a guy that's been there for a while, could probably go to something else if he wanted to, but instead he chooses to stay in Fargo and then work with the University of North Dakota and other organizations too in the winter when it's not baseball season. There's no reason why you can't. There's plenty of others just in the Frontier League alone that will do, college basketball, college soccer, college volleyball, do whatever, and then do baseball elsewhere. You can absolutely make that work. There's plenty of examples of that. But when you're not paying, a real number, it makes it really hard to justify that when, and this position for Somerset was, I believe, end of March through September. So we're looking, even just want to say all of April, all of May, all of June, July, August, and September. It's half the year still. It's $6,000 for 6 months. That's really hard to ask someone. And it's not like, there's not going to be associated costs. There's still the same cost of going in the office every day and doing all that work. Just from car wear and tear and gas alone, you're spending all the money you're making just getting to and from the ballpark. So, at a certain point, if you're saying oh, this is a loss lead, it's going to lead to something else, and there's no concrete guarantee or damn near handshake agreement that you're going to get a better position or that this is going to go from, it's a $250 stipend, sure, but if you stay throughout the year, then next year will turn to a full-time thing and will pay you a real salary. Then there's no real point in doing it if you're just doing it for the role, because you could just go somewhere else, make more money, and get the same tape for your role. So that's really where my hang up is.
My other thing adding on that is I understand that, and because this is I also believe probably a much bigger issue throughout media, but it's whatever, but is, okay, let's take it for what it is. Okay, it's an internship, but here's my thing. Most jobs, ground floor jobs, are like this throughout baseball as a whole, but also we'll keep it specific to media. It is like this. And you can say, all right, sure, but it's an internship. I'm like, okay, but it's an internship that's a full-time job for about 6 months. Over that time, you're not going to be able to successfully work a real job that brings an income, because even if you work it around your office hours, you also have to work it around half of your nights.
Yeah.
So
and your
what
weekends.
it does, right. And what it does is creates a situation where the only people who can take this job are people who are financially in a position to take this job.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a very specific type of person. And it really occurs to me because I have some friends who are pretty successful with doing within the production side of television. And they say that the weird thing is they know people that are so much more talented than the people who are on air talent. However, the on air talent, it can take the questionable job, or they know somebody or whatever. And it kind of does create this weird echo chamber across media of people who tend to be better off and people who tend to be from a certain background. So you get, whatever channel you go to, most of the people looking at you are, let's not pretend Anderson Cooper isn't a Vanderbilt. Let's not, I love Pablo Torre. Pablo Torre is out there doing stuff I would love to do, but Pablo Torre also is a Harvard kid. It's top to bottom. It's top of the news media to even what's going on Dan Le Batard's show. So it's not targeted at anybody. It's a bigger problem, but specific to baseball, because that's what we worry about here. It just creates a concerning environment where it's really difficult for certain people with certain practicality and from certain areas to without really desperately barely getting by, or without a real stroke of luck being able to do this. And Yeah, what really occurred to me when last year, when there was the hurricane that came through and all the flooding in North Carolina, and there was all those conspiracy theories because it wasn't being talked about in the news very much. And I was like, you're missing the point. It's not a conspiracy. It's the fact that the people in the media don't know anybody in the Appalachian Hills. They don't know anyone. And you risk creating a single voice across your broadcasts of every team and getting one type of person when the only channel to go through is the one where you have a bunch of financial backing and support to let you take on what is essentially a stupid job for 6 months to maybe 2 years, whatever the case may be, in the hopes of potentially getting something else. And you cut a lot of good and promising people out, and you end up getting a lower level of talent across the board by cutting those people out. And you also get a very homogenous style. So that's it. That's my big picture thing on that. That's not where I expected to go with that necessarily. I meant to clown the Somerset Patriots for doing something stupid, but then we stumbled into that. So
yeah. Well, so I'll just bookend it with this because then we do have to do a Gary tease, and then I will also say is there's also a lack of internal hiring where you don't really move up the chain. You go and you grab someone from a smaller market that's done well, and then you go ahead and put them in here. Sure, you may go from like intern, keeping in the baseball room, intern to like on air, but you don't really stay that way. If they can get someone that's better, it doesn't go the way you want to. I guess what I'm trying to get is if your goal is to be, say, on the radio for Major League Baseball, right? You're not going to get to start as like the AA intern and then work your way to AA broadcaster and then up to AAA. And then eventually you'll get to work in the newsroom for the Major League broadcast. And then maybe you get on air sooner than later. That doesn't happen often. Mm-hmm. They go out, and if they're looking for a Major League guy, they say, hey, look, I'm a New York market. The Seattle guy's pretty good. Let's throw some money at him and just grab him. We know what we're getting there. They're not really taking that chance here. And what's sad to me is, too, and I think it's also just in the past, yeah, you could go to school and get a broadcasting thing, but you used to get people from all different backgrounds and all different walks of life, and they probably didn't start as a broadcaster. They started doing something else and were like, I don't like doing that, so I'm going to switch up and just try to get into, this whole radio thing or whatever it may be. And you got great personalities as a result of it. And you had different distinct voices to it. We don't have as many of those just across the board in media anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, generally, I challenge someone to turn on, like, for a random NFL Sunday, turn on a broadcast and tell me if outside of like the 2 or 3 A guys that each network has, the difference between their B team and their C team. They sound essentially the same. You can't really point them out. If you're a nerd about it like we are, yeah, you probably could tell like, oh, well, that's so-and-so and that's someone else. But by and large, the average person is not telling the difference anymore. You don't have that kind of like distinctly unique voice anymore. You kind of have it a little bit with like Kevin Harlan and maybe like a Mike Breen, but that's about it. And even those are guys that have been in this for a while. You don't have that unique signature kind of different voice. And it's kind of expect that you're going to conform to the way things are done and not have your own style. And I think that kind of unique style and being able to kind of freelance things makes the broadcast more memorable and adds the experience there. And I get why it's the way it is. It's just disappointing to see, and it feels like a drop in quality.
Yeah, because my closing thing is there's a lot of talk in media about how these people are coming up through like YouTube and doing their own YouTube channels or podcasts or what have you. And it's like, oh, wow, like it's a new world when that's a thing. And I'm like, well, part of it is because it's available. But the other part of it is, because there are no roles in big media stuff. Like in the ladder for that's completely broken. Because even if you do take a role like this, even if you do move up and you become the broadcaster for the Somerset, that's not really a full-time job unless you're also doing sales and stuff like that. So you're also doing broadcasting for other teams as well. So then the only job that you can take to move on from that is a job that will make up basically for all of those combined paychecks. Because say I am doing Somerset, but I'm also doing a bunch of other local sports, and then I get offered something else of a higher level, but like still not enough money. It's out in like Kansas. I can't go out there because I'm leaving behind not just this paycheck, which sure that new job might replace, but also the other ones that supplement it because this paycheck isn't enough. So that's the thing.
Plus, not to mention, if you're going out to a different market now, you have to find a new place to live. You have to probably get everything else set up over there and out there. You got to bet on it working out. Otherwise, you got to come back out to where you just were. And if you don't have the money saved up to be able to afford to do the move and probably put down money for, security deposit for wherever you're going to rent from, and then have the rent on top of that, it's going to be a while. You never know how long it takes to actually set up your payment and everything. It could be a month before you see a check. It's sure that check's going to be nice when you get it. It's going to be like 2 or 3 checks into one, but it doesn't help you for that month between where you got to figure out a way to pay bills and eat. So
got to find a whole new fight club in a local basement.
We do have, we're going to segue off that and talk a little Gary real quick here, because as it's probably been either noted earlier in this show, if I leave that bit in, or mentioned on the Railcat show or on Twitter or somewhere, we will be hopping on to talk with Kyle and Chuck this week. I believe the episode should be out. It'll be out probably the last week of February, or February. Oh, Jesus. The last week of January, first week of February.
So tired of you. You make one mistake, I just bury you. Meanwhile, I'm like constantly like, never mind.
God, why can't the fires reach your house the other month? Christ.
How amazing would it be, just like the slow motion collapse of our friendship, podcast to podcast? It would be like one of the greatest promises told.
It ends with me just throwing you on a racetrack in New Hampshire.
Long silence. Let's see. I'm just trying to see. So what do we want to talk about with this? Because I know you want to tease this. I mean, do you want to just like we're doing it, or what would you want to discuss?
Well, that's the first part is that we're doing it. So look forward to that. We'll promote it. He'll promote it. And if you're unsure and you haven't listened to the show before, absolutely listen to Railcat Talk. It's a good show. And I believe I'm going to also get the audio from Kyle. I think he mentioned he was going to send it to me too. So I may try to cut together a little trailer for it and slap it on the end of next week's show for those that are still on the fence about it. But I do want to also just kind of give a quick preview of what we're going to talk about. We're going to go on there. And essentially it's as though we've been put in charge of the team, what we would do in that instance. And I know last week in the pre-show, it's kind of funny. I was thinking like, I'd like to go on the show and talk about Gary. And we had a whole Gary conversation before the show last week. And we were like, yeah, the team building aspect of this baffles me the way Lamar does this. And
that was before the podcast.
Yes, that was a pre-show combo.
Oh my God. So when Kyle reached out, in my head, I was like, oh, he must have heard us talk about it. No, this is okay. Sorry. It just hit me that was just like by chance.
The circumstance. Yeah. It's kind of funny how that happened. So, we were mentioning that the approach we would take is straight up. You need contact hitters and you need guys that, don't make me point at the board again, get on base. Because the ballpark is set up in a way where power hitters are not going to do well there consistently. That's not to say you don't have those in the lineup. You need to have 2, maybe 3 of them on the team still. You do play half of your games on the road, and you're going to need that. But they shouldn't be the focus of it. There's way too many strikeouts on this team. We actually did a really deep dive before the show.
Many. It was such a long deep dive before we even hit record. If you don't think we're in it for the love of the game, first of all, what do you think we're in it for? The money? What are you talking about?
Please, Secondly, I've only got a
pre-show. The pre-show is a ride some days.
Yeah. So we were talking about how you need contact hitters in there because they're going to get you on base. You're going to move things around. Also, I think it'd be a very entertaining style of baseball that helps get people to the ballpark. You want high action type of baseball there. As far as pitching goes, we were saying, no one strikes anybody out in Gary. All right. There's a lot of walks too. So why are we really concerned about that? Right. You can get power hitters and just tell them hit the zone. The ball's not leaving the yard more often than not. If they hit it, if they make a good swing on a bad pitch, that happens. That's baseball. They beat you doing that fine. But if it's a big outfield, Why are we not playing to that? Why are we not getting a really good fielding center fielder that can kind of make up on the fringes here and two good outfielders? Why are we not doing that? Let him hit a bunch of long flyouts. Like, let's go in and take a look at people's advanced down when they get released from affiliated ball. Go, okay, he has good stuff. He just kind of gets hit here. Go, I don't want to see you throw this pitch ever again.
Right.
Like, that's what we should be doing here. That's what we got to look at here. I mean, you look at the baseball reference page for Gary, and there's a couple things that immediately jump out. And this is all the kind of thing we're going to get into on the rail catch. I don't want to steal too much of that conversation here. So kind of keep in the conceptual, but yeah, the offensive side, the things that jump out is no one walks and there's a lot of strikeouts, and guys kind of stick around for a little too long. I'm sure we'll get into our Lamar thoughts over there, because I mean, I think our position on Lamar is kind of well known, but not to say it's entirely his fault, because I mean, Greg kind of dipped out at the end there too. I want to make that clear, but
it's also, yeah, I mean, he is working a tough situation. We'll talk about it, but like, my concern remains like the growth is not there. In fact, we're trending the wrong direction. Very much so.
Why? Because when you have the worst season in franchise history, that's not a good thing.
Well, and it's also little things like when I get asked why I worry about, Lamar, it's things like the signings that they've already announced. Like the 3 pitchers they're bringing back from last year are guys who give up a combined like 11 hits per 9.
That's not good.
I'm just like,
like, here's the thing. Like, I will say this much, right? That I don't hate all the guys they brought back.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay. I think Peyton Long has some potential, if I remember right, because I know he was one of the guys they brought back.
Did they bring back Peyton?
I believe I saw it. Yeah.
My friend, I don't know. I didn't see him on the transaction.
I saw it.
Oh, you're right. No, January 20th it happened. Yep. Peyton Long. No, Peyton is, yeah.
Peyton, I like
stand out of that
back.
Squad. Yeah.
He needs to come down, but hey.
And that's strictly hits. At least it's not walks.
Yeah. Like, it's only 29 walks in 113 innings. That's very good. It's just, we can't have 131 hits. That can't
we
happen.
need to find a way to miss some barrels here, boys.
Exactly. Like, that's not great. Do we know if Andres Diaz is back yet? Because as a 22-year-old, he didn't have a bad year.
Diaz did get signed, yeah.
Okay, so that's good. I like bringing him back. Young kid, 6-6 record. ERA is a little high, but he threw a good amount of innings. Strikeouts were good. A little high on the walk. For Gary, not high on the walks. 40 walks and 104. Would like it to come down, but we can work with it. I'm more concerned about the hits.
That was also the most innings he had thrown before this was like 27.
Exactly. I'd be curious to see.
So they were asking a lot of him.
Yeah, in my prep work, I'm going to go on there and take a look to see when that kind of went south. Because I got to imagine after about this 60 inning mark, it went south.
My concern on Peyton Long really is that's going to need, something's going to need to be, that doesn't feel like a small adjustment. It feels like a fairly sizable adjustment, because he was in the Milwaukee system for a couple years. Then he was in the Pioneer, and then he was in Gary, and he has just always been like a 10 to 11 hit per 9 guy. Now that is, by the way, operable. That is not a death sentence. Yep. But if you are going to do that, you're going to have to strike guys out. I'm not someone who insists on strikeouts, but if you're going to if you're going to give up hits or walks, you have to also strike people out, because if you're letting guys get on base with balls in play that often, then you're going to have to keep the ball out of play a little more often. And unfortunately, he's not that guy.
It feels like
that could be an adjustment.
Yeah. I do wonder, is this a pitch to contact guy or a contact finds him guy?
That I don't know. I'd have to find that.
Yeah, because that's a very big difference. If you're pitching to contact, sure, fine, whatever. But
yeah, oh my god, I'm gonna have to watch a bunch of Gary games this week.
We could have fun with this and do a live stream where we just watch Gary baseball.
Scouting Gary, honestly, don't hate it. Could do it.
I'm gonna text you about that later.
Okay, cool.
All right. But yes, so that's
we end up making far more content out of this than Kyle. That's so classic us.
it would
We
be
know
like,
that we know, Kyle. We know that we have described you as the only person with a more niche baseball podcast than us because you do it just about one indie ball team. However, we do want you to know that we have made several hours of content talking about rebuilding your team. After you asked us to come on for a little while and talk about it, probably in a far less specific way.
I see this now. We just start calling up different managers that we know, like, hey, do you want to hop on this so we can break down some film?
Don't invite a sicko if you didn't want sicko behavior.
Exactly. Like, God, look, I've been diagnosed. I can't have a boss.
I describe, nice. I literally just had a conversation with someone about like advice for an executive when it comes to their social media people. And it was literally like, just don't get involved. Like trust. If you go get good social media people and then let them do their thing, you are an executive. You should not be worried about social media. Let your weirdos be weirdos and they'll do it for you. Like you hired weirdos to be on Twitter all day. Let them do it.
I mean,
like
that's
like, us. It's you brought in weirdos to dissect the Gary roster. Like let them be weirdos.
But literally though, like to be in social media means there's at least part of you that has to be terminally online to be up with what's going on. So
it's terminal.
You can't expect them to be totally normal people, and the normies just are not allowed to be in this space because like you're not going to get the joke.
Yeah. Gotta be
and
weird,
like,
man.
yeah, occasionally some normies are going to get annoyed at you, but just let it ride. Like if we've learned nothing over the last like decade, when you address a problem, you get more criticism than just ignoring it. Just ignore it. It will go away. Until
don't Streisand affect this.
Exactly. Until there's court paperwork, it's not a problem. Once
Pretty
they bring
much.
papers, then it's like, okay, now we got a problem here. But then that goes from social media problem to legal department problem.
The old Gastonia ownership strategy. I wonder how Brandon Bellamy is doing.
I don't know, but I sent you a link to Al Dorso and how he made his money.
Saw that. Appreciate it.
Fun fact, if you look him up, you get his home address too.
Wonder if that's going to be my next deep dive once this Noco one should drop this week, but I'll talk about it in our wrap up.
All right. In fact, why don't we wrap it here because I do have stuff I got to get to. So, meaning I have to be at lunch in 40 minutes. It's about a 15-minute drive, and I have to shower. So,
I believe in it.
I think so. And even if I get there late, like I don't really care. But luckily, we planned.
Poppy.
Exactly. See, and the good news is happy hour only starts at 3 and it runs till 5. $5 burgers. That's winning. And they're some burgers too. I got to be honest, pretty good burger. So, yeah. So we're going to be on that podcast. Keep an eye out for it. We'll promote it when we get there. And, once we have everything, we'll promote it. And who knows, we may make some content out of this because we do have to do some Gary scouting now. Who would have thought a world where we're doing a lot of Gary scouting?
No, I mean, I thunk that world.
Fair enough. Yeah, which I actually am very excited to go on. I appreciate Kyle having us on because it's kind of rare that we get to go on to other people's shows. It's very weird.
We have had Kyle on ours too, so this is like the nice little like full circle.
Exactly. Like last time
and we brought him in on arguably the worst day to be a Railcats fan, literally for therapy.
Why? Because I walked 23 guys.
You know why I'll always love and respect Kyle is because I'm in the middle of a 23 walk performance for his team. I DM'd him and said, like, I don't think we'd ever talked, or maybe we had talked a couple times.
Yeah.
And just been like, hey, want to record a podcast right now? And he said, yeah, man. I was like, yes, dude.
I remember that to you, just like, do you see what Gary's doing? Nah, what's up? They walked like 12 guys. Shit, really? What inning?
In the first inning. Yeah, it was the second. I think it was the second. It was like, unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
They're like, you want to get Kyle? I was like, he wants to come on. We got to talk about this.
I know. Like if he'll like, I would have totally respected if he was like, I don't want to talk about this right now. I've been like, yeah, it's fair.
Yeah. That was a hell of a performance in Cleburne, Texas. Oh, God. But yeah, so I'm really excited to be on there. Appreciate him having us on. And I think we're going to have a good conversation. And I bet he's fully expecting this to be like, oh, they'll be on for like an hour and a half. Nah, buddy, you don't understand.
Poppy.
It's 2.5 minimum. I don't think you understand how this works. Clear the
You're
slate.
in it now, big dog.
Plus, he
Welcome
had
to the jungle.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I could go ahead. You guys could hop on. Like, earliest I could do is like 7 year times. Like, all right, let's do 8. And then like, oh no, he doesn't understand. We go for 2.5, 3 hours when we start at 11 at night. You just told me I have an extra 4 hours to work with.
Poor guy.
He doesn't know what he's getting into, but at the same point in time, he invited this sicko mess. So like, what happens, happens.
Right.
Yeah. So what else do you have going on?
Okay. I have a few content pieces. I haven't put anything out this week because I really want to finish the Northern Colorado video I'm doing. And it's just been, the people around that area have been very helpful. I fear that I've raised expectations on it a little too much, but I think it'll be good. This is not a Gastonia style report for me. This is where some of you remember there's a lot of investigative journalism almost to that. This is more collecting, because this has been sort of something people have not discussed fully, or people have not paid full attention to.
So you're compiling.
And now it's almost too long of a story. So this is more of a compiling of the full story and then telling it. But keep an eye out this week for that. I'm actually going to be talking hopefully to a local reporter from over there who's done a lot of the reporting that I've compiled to confirm details with him, make sure things look right before I put it out. And then beyond that, I brought back Deal or No Deal, which we did on the podcast the one time. This Deal or No Deal is with my friend who has been to indie ball games, is aware of them, but is not a fan of any particular team. And I ran him through the sort of early version of that what team should I root for poll that I've made, or survey. So I'm going to work with that. And then I turned it into a Deal or No Deal situation for him. So that was fun, but I'm editing that one because it just needs to be, it was like twice as long as I thought it was going to be. And last thing, I got an additional probably stupid video coming out. So I won't even go into the details on it because it's not that exciting, but it would just be some very typical dumb Indie Ball Nation content. So I hope people will be on board for that. So yeah, that's what I got.
Very busy. I also have a video coming out though. It'll be New Year's resolutions because, who doesn't need that 30 days after New Year's? So that'll be out next week. And we're going to talk about each of the 4 major independent leagues, what they should look to improve upon in the new year going into the season. So that's something to get excited about. And the February article topic is going to be a mascot free-for-all. In other words, if every mascot independent baseball were to fight each other, who would come out on top and stand upon bodies of mascots? So
that's beautiful. I love that.
That'll be a fun article to write. I can actually write in my normal writing style, which is way more conversational than it should be, but many seem to enjoy it. So I love that for you. So yeah, I'm actually very excited about that piece. So that'll be up middle of February, and the video up next week on the 30th, I believe. We may wind up bumping that to 31, depending on if the editing goes well or not. But yeah, we just got to take care of all that. And like I said, when I go to record I'm still torn if I'm going to have actual video there or if it's just going to be a bunch of graphics I make and then a voiceover. If we wind up doing the voiceover, I'll try to get the article voiceover from this month up as well at the same time. But we're working on that. So that's the plan there. Got all that to look forward to. And I'm in the process of reaching out to people for interviews too. So we're going to hopefully get that started in February. So because I've been very lazy about that. So that's all we got. That's what we got coming up. That's what we have for you this week. And we got a lot to look forward to for next week. So until then, don't forget to play ball.